you can't vision board your way out of your money patterns that have been
Yeah.
established out of your conscious awareness. So that is key. And there is no bigger personal development game than entrepreneurship, because anything that's showing up in your business is a direct reflection of a part of you, from finances, money, staff, people, the whole gamut.
Elinor Moshe, welcome to the Entrepreneurial Engineer podcast.
A pleasure and privilege to be here. Thank you for the energy already and where we'll go with this conversation.
I love it. So, Elinor, tell me, what mission are you on right now and what is the current outcome?
Whether it's in business or personal, I was a person who saw that as separate, and they are not separate. They are mirrors of the same thing, and that is your inner architecture. And if that inner architecture is not based on truth, and it is not based on, not to be cliched on an engineering podcast, but the right foundations, it will come crashing down. And when our businesses are mirrors of, again, our own internal world, and they lack the structural integrity, then there is going to be so much struggle and suffering. And you were just talking about coaching people looking to buy transformation and off the shelf solution, but they're trying to install that on infrastructure that fundamentally is illusory and not truthful. So whether it's business or whether it's personal, again, one and the same. How do we reinstate truth? Because it was my undoing on many different fronts to not have that. And that is a big part of the mission now, because that offers people so much of what they're actually looking for when they started their business, when they're, wanting to have a holistic life. And you introduce truth into business and professional, personal, across the arena. My God, how things changed.
Yeah, I love the engineering puns. It's not just a podcast for engineers, it's for entrepreneurs as well. But, you're right, setting up that inner architecture, that foundation. So what are some of those things? What does a foundation look like? I mean, I'm not talking about footings and piles here. We're talking about what makes up that truth, what makes up that inner architecture. How would anyone look to build a foundation?
That is a great question. And we think of that as just, being mindset. Like we have to have the entrepreneurial mindset and we just need to hustle and grind and insert the narrative of what we think it means to have that. You just need to have, just got to keep on going. Like there's so much narrative around what people think it means to be an entrepreneur, and what models do we see? We see people that have depleted so many aspects of their life just to make one part of their business work. And then if they were to remove that one stilt, it all comes crashing down.
Yeah.
I was speaking to someone today and she gave the example of Kerwin Ray, quite someone extremely popular in the professional development space, and he committed suicide at 50. And she was referring to a podcast, I don't remember the name of it, where he was questioned, how come you have all this success and you claim to be, so depressed? And his response was, I'm paraphrasing, I'm sure people can look up the podcast he was on, was that the tools that he was using was only to suppress what was hidden within. And when life will have a way for him, it was a stroke. That shook him up, and that brought everything that those tools suppressed to the surface. So it's not even about the tools. It is really about what's hiding in the shadow self. What can't you see? That would be every engineer's nightmare. The force that they can't see, the calculation that they could not see that needed to be done. Otherwise, we all know what unfortunately happens when things go wrong. It is very much the same within ourselves. So understanding the pattern within yourself is key, because it will then show up within your business. It will show up in your startup or career even. For example, the visibility wound. You're here putting yourself out there. You take risks when you're doing that.
Yeah.
Some people could never fathom doing something like this.
Well,
Why would that be the case? Now, imagine they start a business and they go to a marketer, and the marketer's telling them, just give me 50K and I'm going to give you all these leads and you didn't even have to speak to someone. And they're like, sold. That's obviously going to go down the drain because there is no such thing. But
Yeah.
they act out of a place of not wanting to show themselves. There are money patterns. I mean, that's a whole other conversation. How
Yeah.
some people can just, money comes in, money comes out, money goes in, money goes out. That's
Yeah.
not natural necessary. That's not necessarily natural.
Yeah. Mm.
So if you're wanting to create a business, you're in business, you're not wanting to just settle on a nice 50K for a year. You have your own goals and
Yeah.
you might meet them, but then you rubber band back. So again, even your parameters around finances, that's not just your money patterns that have been
Yeah.
established out of your conscious awareness. So that is key. And there is no bigger personal development game than entrepreneurship because anything that's showing up in your business is a direct reflection of a part of you from finances, money, staff, people, the whole gamut.
Yeah. I often say that you're the CEO of your own life.
Mm.
The buck does really stop with you. But one thing that just sort of really hit home with me, and it's back to that foundation. It's back to what you can't see. It's back to that, that little wooden peg that you just put somewhere down there while you're building all the concrete and the steel, and
Yeah.
you're building this thing, and you're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. There was just that little wooden peg that was just holding up that side bit. And that's the thing that if someone flicked it, you're down, you're gone, you're out. What is that thing? Can you put your finger on what that is? Like what would it be? Because a lot of people talk about burnout. A lot of people talk about, I'm just burning the candle at both ends. I see a lot of people that, they appear to have everything, but then there's that one thing. Cool. Over your years of mentoring and coaching, can you see is there something that it could be? Is there like a pattern, I guess, that people could look out for that and know how to find it and fix it and make it stronger?
Everyone has different themes that continuously play out in their life, no matter where they go. So there is the person who quits a job and then it's great and then it's not, and then they meet the same person, or a relationship, a man or woman who somehow gets into the same relationship with the character and behavior of their
Yeah,
maternal or paternal impactors.
yeah, yeah,
It shows up in business, personal, so on and so forth.
yeah,
People really do need to start looking for the main themes that are happening. And then
yeah,
how does this manifest no matter what they do, where they go? And they might have done some conventional work like me. You do the affirmations and the vision board, you have a great run. And then it all, that wooden peg comes out. And it's like, where was that peg? Why is everything coming down? And what is exactly happening? Looking at patterns, that really
mhm,
does say so much. Even in business, things are quite cyclical and we think it's natural, but we need to start questioning, is it? Is it natural for someone to lose a lot of money periodically? I mean, why does that happen? Why couldn't we see that? Where was this actually coming from? Or high staff turnover? Like, we think these things are natural, but we do need to ask the question whether it is or isn't. But
mm,
it also is about using the right tool for the right job. So, with the case of the wooden peg, how could we have possibly detected it? A walkthrough might have been more useful
yeah.
than a drone kind of thing. And it is
Was
not.
it a site visit or Google Street View?
Yeah, exactly. And like
Yeah, I
people are
like it.
probably, yeah, people are sitting like, well, obviously, Eleanor, it's like, okay, I understand that you understand that on site, but it is no different from ourself. So when we want to investigate our own internal architecture, we need the right tool for the right job. And most of the right tools to get to that wooden peg, I love that analogy, I'm going to use it, that we can't see will require things that go beyond our conscious awareness and our conscious perception because when we only work with that, we're working with our own direct experience, which is quite limited, and we're working within the confines of our own paradigm or within a certain frame. And when we do that, then we are limiting our perception. And if we limit our perception, then we can't see the things that we must see because it is going to be absolutely drastic if we don't.
How well do you think you need to know someone to point it out for them? You know, because I think we see it at work. A lot of people work, work, work. Not a lot of interaction outside of work. It's hard with colleagues. But I feel like sometimes every now and then there's that moment of going, oh, maybe there is a pattern. How, because I really like it's really important because that whole piece of discussion would really help people to understand that maybe there is a pattern, maybe there is something, maybe my foundation isn't strong. Maybe you need to be vulnerable and you want to put yourself out there and bang, you get knocked down by something. Yeah, I think finding the pattern that's key because not a lot of people I find reflect. It's always forward, 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 go, 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 hustle, grind, do. 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, just to get whatever it is, you know, to
Yeah.
get there. I want to get there. I want to be an associate. I want to be associate director. I want to be a design manager. I want to get there, get there, get there. But then they don't look back and be like, well, hold on a minute. What about how I've got here? What happened? How did I get here? Where are those patterns? How important is that, do you think, the reflection piece?
I wish I allowed myself to reflect as what was necessary during very critical times. The problem is we also don't give ourselves permission because it is not normalized, as you were saying. It is not normal it is not considered normal in that particular, rat race and certain traditional structures to question it. So, there is the person who's working every single night and, is the last one to leave, first one to come, and they'll probably tell you that they love their job. And you know what? Maybe they do. And if they do, more power to you.
Yeah.
But if we actually examined, is that a byproduct of people pleasing? Are they trying to seek something from somewhere else, i.e., their boss or people they consider to be an authority that they have not been able to get elsewhere? So most
Mm,
people are just seeking to have their needs met, except the ways in which they do that can be quite unconscious. It is seen as normal and rewarded as well
mm,
within
yeah.
certain parts of culture
Yeah.
that it's not questioned. So I didn't allow myself to look at the thing that I needed to look at the most because what would that mean for most people? And unraveling. It would mean that sometimes you need to shut up shop and not even have your business. And for entrepreneurs, they, we do attach a lot of our identity and our purpose and our drive through our business. And more so than not, the amount of resources and sunk cost at the end of the day. Like, well, I started this and I've been doing this for 10 years. I should just keep on going, even at the expense of my soul-crushing misery. So we are not allowed to even question. And how many people even hold the space for you to just start questioning things without being like, no, you need to have a 50 page plan, lead strategy, and then you got to speak to this, and I want you to do this. It's like, no, no, you are allowed to question and explore anything that doesn't seem right to you anymore, even
Mm,
though it may have started out with the right intentions, but it's like, things are getting a bit pear-shaped right now. As you were saying, we so need to allow that reintroduction of questioning, and this needs to go far beyond what's not working in my business, because if it's not working in your business, it's not working within you either.
yeah. So yeah, and even wanting to unpack that more because I think looking at your experience, you know, you seem like you did your time in construction. Tell us about some of the early days, the construction worker, Eleanor, the contract administrator, whatever you're doing, wherever you're on site. Tell us a little about those early days and maybe now where you are, reflecting on where you were in life and in
Mm.
your career.
Oh, that is a wonderful question. I have not gone there in a very long time, so
Hey, if it's too dark, don't worry.
no, no, no.
It's all
I actually
good.
haven't been there in a very long time. I did love it. I did love the ability to be around people who, were seeming to do great things. And I had a great run at the start of my career. And I absolutely love that. I was very lucky compared to some people who come in straight off the bat, have experiences that just they don't even want to work, let alone in an industry like this. So I had a great time. I worked on some really great projects. There were horses on one project, and I loved being at the airport on a project as well. I had great locations. I had a lot of autonomy and independence, and it was great. I was also too highly absorbed into the feminist narrative in the industry. It is loud in there, and I was sucked right in. But
Yeah.
the reflective thing, I was on the outside, it seems really empowering and supportive. You get in there and it is cutthroat and it is, I will take you down kind of energy. And oh, you need help? Great. I can't take your call. And look, this is my direct experience. There are great women out there. There are great men doing great things out there.
Yeah.
Um, this is not about gender. This is about the energy at play. So I got, quite sucked into that narrative until I started listening to entrepreneurial podcasts where all of that narrative did not exist in the entrepreneurial world because gender didn't matter. There
Yeah.
was no lack. You wanted to create a conference, then you could do that. And I'm like, women here are clawing themselves. They are fighting over scraps. And there are other women out there who and men who are simply not. They're like, I'm going to play a different game. And that's what started to shake up the paradigm of what was so loud as a narrative in the industry. And fundamentally, it was not beneficial to men and it is not beneficial to women as well, because it didn't make sense that men were seen like perpetrators or that men were seen like, just because they were born in a different physical container were not having their own hardships. And just on that topic, we're, not going to go down that rabbit hole necessarily. There's a book by Warren Farrell, the boy crisis, something like that. I'm not great with titles and names. And it talks about how 95% of occupational health and safety deaths or high risk incidents as well are men. So you don't see women necessarily running to go work in some mine in the middle of nowhere where the air quality is below legal limits. You don't see women like rushing to, work to drive the garbage truck. No, they want all the sexy stuff without recognizing men's role in society. So
Mm.
a lot of that paradigm started shaking up because of the introduction of understanding, there is a way of thinking differently. You don't need to necessarily be an entrepreneur. And that's what led to understand, like, the side hustle culture and looking into coaching and, hey, I
Yeah.
can do all these things. And this was at a time where 5 years ago, just a little bit beforehand, podcasting wasn't a thing, side hustle wasn't a
Yeah.
thing. Now
Yeah.
it's everyone's got some, as you were talking about beforehand, a label, a poster on the wall, and a website URL. It's like, yeah, I can solve all your life problems. It was different back then. So I had a great run. I did learn a lot. I learned valuable skills. Even through the very bad experiences, I now understand why they happened, where I wasn't aware enough, and was able to take the totality of that into what was, the construction coach and what I made out of that. And to do that at a time where, yeah, this wasn't a thing. There was a lot of feedback loop, both, great supporters and people who actively went out of their way to make sure that it wasn't a success, that
Wow.
you develop quite thick skin, but
Yeah.
there's a consequence of that because you become hardened and you don't want to become hardened as well. So it has been one journey, but I did really love a few good years in construction. I got to meet amazing people. There are people doing great work out there, and I got to meet more as I started my brand and continued to create from there. So it was the best of times and the worst of times.
Oh yeah, once again, I mean, I did my time on site. I did my, getting up at 5 a.m. every single day, getting home at 7 p.m. every night. I did the, sitting in the shower at night because I couldn't stand because my legs were killing me because I'd been, on site all day. And, you know, it's interesting you talk about that culture, and I don't know, it's not just a construction culture, because I know in consultancy that dog eat dog, like everyone's happy family, right? And this is what I think. On the surface, it's all happy family. Hey mate, yeah, yeah, yeah. But when it comes down to like the performance review, the salary or the promotion or the role that someone wants or whatever it is, and even competitors in the consultancy world, like, some people joke about it, and if you can have those jokes, that's great. But it is dog eat dog, and I wonder, in reflecting on your career and where you've gone, do you think that it was maybe part of that culture and direct experience that made you find that different game? Or do you think it was just an evolution of your own self-discovery that said, I'm going to go do something else because that's what I want to do, in a way?
It's both. It's both and neither at the same
Yeah.
time. We all have a frame and what's in our frame. So if the only thing within your frame is a very small frame, then you have very small thoughts. Then
Yeah.
you expand the frame and then you can put more in it. So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
is definitely both. But a thing that came to mind is that we need to recognize that corporate and even business as we know it today, online business is a very modern invention. But corporate
Yeah.
has only been around since the 1950s and it is a social experiment. So
Yeah.
we're talking about that dog eat dog environment. The corporate structures are quite masculine, so hierarchical structured, but
Yeah.
the operations of business is feminine. It's consultative. It's got flow to it,
Engaging.
engaging. It's,
Yeah.
we do need to understand this from different perspectives, kind of thing. So how many people are actually attuned to balancing those energies, but also working in environments which physically do not support your optimum health? We don't all run on a 9 to 5 clock. We
Yeah.
don't all work best under fluorescent lighting. We don't all eat at the same time, so on and so forth.
We're sheep in a pen. Come on.
Yeah, so yeah, and then we're talking about, the manifest of this culture. It's absolutely not a dig at any industry. This is a big part of the collective. But we need to understand how it was established, why it exists, because then people can make an informed decision. What game do I want to play? Do I want to play this game? And if this is the case, then great. And if you decide to go and mix, the two or decide to go down the entrepreneurial path, understanding why it is, because a lot of people also get swept up in, the new shiny thing. Like, yeah, it looks very sexy to have an online business. And some people, I'm sure, make hundreds of thousands on very low hours as well. Whether they do it ethically or not, I do not know. But is it possible? I'm sure it is as well. But
Mm,
again, it
mm,
comes back to that reflective piece. And the more that you invite that, the more that you can be more conscious of, well, where am I taking this? And what would I like to now experience in my career? And that's something that is still, the question that I do ask is like, I would love to experience this, or how can I create it? And if you're not able to, then can you partner? Again, there's so many different opportunities, but
mm,
when people are stuck in a game that is not conducive to them being creative, bringing on those faculties offline, online are a little bit more challenging.
mm. Yeah, I really liked what you said about the corporate world, because been sort of thinking about the future of engineering, and I'm looking at the Industrial Revolution, corporate world, digital age.
Mm.
And I feel like you said, right, it's a social experiment. It's what, 50, 60, 70 years maybe. And all of a sudden we're on this precipice of just, whoa, like, so it really, like, I don't know, I think a lot of people are really blind to it. I talk about it a lot. Who are like, and we talk a bit about AI, and you mentioned it before, but yeah, it's you're really right, because that transition for anyone in their career, I think, is crucial. So,
Before that, if I can just say, there is a
oh,
place
please.
for it, and there are people doing wonderful things. There are wonderful, healthy environments out there. But to attract that, you need to become a healthier, and I'm not talking about physically, but a healthier expression of yourself. They do exist. As you exist, as I exist, there are the businesses that do exist. And, there is a place for economy. We can't sit here and, poo-poo certain systems. And it's like, well, the ego's got to eat. So I very much understand that and keep that in check. But this is more an invitation for people to reflect and understand, what is the dynamic and fundamentally what does it mean for me? So thank you for allowing me to clarify that.
Oh, no, no, please. I mean, there are so many good people. There are so many good organizations. I think, though, just picking up on one of your other points about that shiny new thing, and
Mm.
that's for me almost like this carrot that's being dangled in front of some people at, maybe bigger organizations or in the corporate world that, like I mentioned before, it's just that next thing, that next thing. But I feel like now, instead of people looking that way, they're looking to the side, they're looking to the other side, they're thinking, okay, maybe there is a different game, maybe there is something else. But I always wonder, if everyone started doing that, well, who's going to do the, the thing? I'd be like, oh, okay, well, maybe a robot can do it. So we'll all be fine. We'll all be fine. So tell me, and I might get it wrong, but you've written 4 books?
I've written 3 books, and my last one is a compilation. So,
Compilation, that's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so there's and I'm only doing this from memory. I don't have it in front of me, but Young Gun, I read that. I love that. That was really good.
Thank you.
There was like A to Z, was it?
Yeah,
Yeah, the A to Z. Yeah, I actually really liked that too. That was like a really nice play, like the alphabet bit. That was really cool. I do have the last one, I forgot what it was called. But what I want to know, and I've got them up on my shelf.
thank
And
you.
I forgot to grab them, but I literally I had the first one, then I just bought them all. So I was like, no,
Thank you.
this is amazing. So very much congratulations on doing that. How did you do that? Because a lot of people say, oh, write a book, write a book, write a book. How do you just go and write, 3 books and then a compilation? Tell me how you did that because I'm super intrigued.
I was grateful to have had the support of a mentor then. And it was through, understanding, well, what am I trying to do here? But also, like, you have access to things that I can't do. There are certain things that just come so easily to you, and there are some things that come so easily to me. I was working with someone and she's like, I can speak for days, but I ain't writing anything. It's like, that's that's how they're built. We all have different equipment, and we all come with different parts, and some parts are more active than others. So for me, and it's also part of my lifestyle. I'm an only child, so being by
Me
myself for
too.
periods of, yeah, there, well, that has pros and cons. Another episode.
Yeah, we'll talk about that another
Yeah.
time.
So as you know, being by yourself with your own thoughts is something that's very easy. But for people who are in a high stimulus environment, and let's say they had 10 siblings, they've never had a moment to catch a thought, I can see that being a little bit more challenging. So writing for me is quite easy, and it's one of the states where I just get into flow. And when I don't write, then I'm obviously avoiding something within. And I have such a soft spot for Young Gun because it was very cathartic for me. I wrote that at the end of my corporate journey, and I saw so many injustices, especially for young people, as to they're going, it's like sending them to war and giving them like a ping pong ball to fight off so many things and make their life fantastic. It's like that is so useless.
Mm,
And, so many systems do not set them up. And if they want to have success in that system, no problem. How can they be set up in a way where they can be aware of all fronts? And they are not. And you just see the life essence drained out of them when they could be doing so much for organizations. They could be doing so much for community. They could be your next business partners and start a whole new unit, but they're too scared to speak because they had an interaction with a bad manager who just shut them down completely, and there goes 10 years of them using their voice. So it was quite catharsis for me to write that. I was, sleepless nights, and all of a sudden you're, and an entrepreneur by societal standards, and you're like, I don't know what's going on at this point in time, so I will do what I can, which is right. But I think it's more the invitation for people to use their natural gifts. Some people are phenomenal speakers. They are
Yeah.
captivating. They are melodic. Use that. Some people are phenomenal writers. Some people can structure anything out of nothing, like whatever that is. You have
Mm.
access to that, use it. So for me, writing is primary. Speaking also, I do prefer to write and then speak as well. It's just part of the equipment and how it works. But I always found it very cathartic. And I do believe everyone does have a book within them, but it's about connecting and actually going through meaningful experiences. That's also a key part, and everyone has to a certain extent. So if they feel that someone needs to hear it, how can they broadcast that?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, again, so many points to discuss. You mentioned that pedestal. Did you feel there was a pedestal? What like because I can imagine, and I don't know like how many you've sold and all the rest, so I don't need to know the detail. It's just awesome the fact that you even, even I bought one. Like I openly just saw you. I saw a podcast or something. You did it with one of my friends. And I went, oh, okay, cool. And then I looked you up and did my homework, saw you had a book, just bought it, right? That's what I mean. I just do that all the time. I love doing that.
I'm the same. I've
Yeah,
got like 20
I'll
back
just follow
there.
some trail and I'll be like, right, yep, cool, I'll just buy that. And then I'll put it on the shelf and I'll read it one day when I get around to it. Um, but I can imagine though that like, coming out of the construction industry, starting a coaching business is one thing, but then going to that next step and launching a book. Like, how did you navigate that? Did you feel like there was just some extra level? Was it just like, oh nah, sweet as? Like, I mean, did you do a book launch? I mean, I don't know. I'm asking all these questions because it's super interesting because I always say you don't see a lot of engineers on TV. You don't see a lot of construction people writing books. You don't see in the media a lot of like engineers, contractors, whoever, right? You might have some politician cutting a ribbon. Yeah, the design, right? So I really want to understand what that was like and how it felt. And I want to know everything about that moment because yeah, it's definitely a one of a kind moment, it feels.
It was, and I appreciate this conversation as well because I had not, it's also the norm for me right now. It's like not desensitized to it, but it's like, yeah, I did that. But now it's, you're inviting me to reflect. It's like the version of me who did that, that was the biggest thing in her world once upon a time. And it was huge. And I did this, I pioneered the space here. And I know that because there were construction books, but there were none that were pointing in the direction of the individual.
Yeah.
And now it's more common. It is far more common. And it is wonderful to see that people are comfortable sharing this. Even with a podcast, this would not have been possible 5 years ago because
Yeah.
it was unheard of. I started talking about the people behind the projects, and that was a no-go zone because it's like, what's the point of this? Why have this? No one's going to start a business, says the business owners themselves. So it's like I don't
Yeah.
understand, but okay. And it came out of a place of wanting to serve and wanting to say so much because I was, I had my own levels of being misled in the industry and not aware of certain things or being given flat advice. It's like being given IKEA furniture. Sometimes it's great. It has a place, it has a purpose, but IKEA furniture without a manual is useless, especially when you didn't ask for it. And so much of the industry advice and experiences that people would, try and guide you on, it was flat. And that's problematic. And even like, I haven't opened one of my books in a while, and I'm feeling that I should. And
You
I
should.
know, yeah, and I'm, thinking if I could rewrite that, it would be taken to a whole lot of more depth. Of course, it's 4 years later, but it served the person that I was then, and therefore it also served people who are reading it where I was as well. So introducing this to the industry, yeah, it was absolutely, I wouldn't say scary. It was unknown. I didn't have
Mm.
the fear because I was very driven then to want to scale out of corporate. I was also towards the tail end of my career working on very toxic sites, ones that were draining and seeping out into different aspects of my life. I would
Mm.
get 10-day colds. And it's like, look,
Oof.
I have in summer, and it's like, like, I've always had, colds in life. And it's like, 3 days and then you just have a blocked nose. This is like 10 days and like nothing's moving. And that was it. That was the body's defense mechanism of like, we can't go back there. And that was just on one front, but it was seeping out. So I remember a quote, I saw it on a TED talk by an Arab businesswoman, and it's turn that shit into fuel. And that's what I did. So I needed to do what I needed to do. But the thing is, the limitation with that is when the shit runs out, there's no more fuel. So when I
Mm.
was talking about at the start, what is this foundation? What is this built on? If you're building something to escape from somewhere else and you're out of there and you're not connecting to a bigger purpose, or that purpose gets hijacked or whatever's going on, it does become detrimental to an individual and of course the business that they want to create. But again, there are wonderful companies who now support people doing a lot outside of work because they understand that it's not a threat to their corporate work. I mean, I do not think you should do any work, inside corporate hours. You're contracted for a reason. But there are companies that are very open to the idea that a career is not just, I own you between when you wake up to when you go to sleep kind of energy.
Yeah. Yeah, and that I think that is, on that, see a lot of young engineers and, construction professionals who do the overtime for free. They work the weekend for nothing. They do that because that's what they think they have to do. Otherwise, they won't have a job, or they won't get that promotion, or they won't be seen as, whether or not it's almost like a teacher's pet thing, maybe. It is okay to say no, and I think that's
Mm.
at least a message there. So tell me, the construction coaching thing, construction coach, that's is now being moved on to the truth of you. Is that right now? And now you're really focused on the truth of you, and what is that? Can you tell me a little bit about that? I'm very interested in that.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for asking. Of course, the books are still in circulation and there's different collaborations that happen. With the construction coach, it's more, aligning it to the energy that I work with, which is responding. So from a human design perspective, I won't go into that, but it's responding. So, if an opportunity comes or a collaboration comes or something like that, I'll assess it. And if I want to work on it under that brand, I still do because I had trouble with it in the interim because I didn't know what it would look like or feel like. And I was like, I don't know what to do with this because I was going through a whole lot of changes. But then if I created it, I can also say, yes, I'm happy to do this, but not this with it. I can do it like that, but not that. And that took a lot of inner work to get to because people only know you as that. But it's like, why, you know, you're not built into a cage unless you think you are. So,
Mm.
but it took time to get out of that too. But as a natural extension, and I always wanted to do more than, one thing anyway. I never knew what that was until, it will life will show you the way. So Truth of You is the business that I have with my partner, and we guide seekers, so those on the spiritual path beyond the surface illusions, so deep into the vast and uncharted depth of their soul. Because what we're talking about before we started recording, how many people are just on that commute and they're just pressing the same elevator button. It's so mechanical. It is so rote. Where's the soul? Does your soul care about what you're doing right now? No,
Mm.
it does not care. It cannot possibly care because you don't, when you walk through a train station, do you really feel anyone's presence? You don't. You don't feel their energy. Where are they? Where's their soul? Their soul is checked out a long time ago because they're fundamentally not making decisions that are in alignment with the deepest broadest, most infinite part of themselves. So we do, we use spiritual practices like astrology, soul contract numerology, divination, and quantum healing to guide individuals to uncover the truth of who they are. And this truth is buried beneath all of the inherited stories and societal expectations and the echo of past lives. And yes, this is transformation, but this is not a transformation that you can, as we were saying before, you can't buy it. This is a journey that you walk with a guide, and it is unique to you, and therefore it is unique to your business. So we can't fit you into a cookie cutter model, because your unconscious paradigm and how that overlays with the unconscious signature of your business is very different. So, for example, we also use these tools in the business realm. So Truth of You has its own energy, and it has its own thing that it wants to express as. It wants to heal, it wants to transform, and it wants to disrupt. Now, makes sense because my partner and I, this is also our energy as well. But let's imagine I didn't understand where my financial wounds are in the business. So if I wasn't aware of that, then, and I was not paying attention to it, and I was, let's say, making decisions out of emotion for money, but I need to be making decisions out of X for my business, that's going to cause friction. That's not going to cause alignment. So we use this to understand our business, and it's as if it's its own entity, which it is its own entity. I'll give another example with soul contract numerology. So we have our business profile, and a part of a challenge that we have with our business is its visibility. It's going to be perceived as quite etheric and a bit foggy, meaning it's hard to grasp
Yeah.
because of many different reasons. Now, let's say I didn't know that and I went and tried to box it up. Let's say I went to a marketing agency and I got them to try generate leads for me. That's not going to work because I doubt they're really going to understand that. Or let's say if they did get the script right, people won't understand that. So
Mm,
who do I blame? What, is it blame, or who am I assigning responsibility to in this instance?
mm,
But now that I know that about the business, then my partner and I are very conscious about the language that we use, how we actually talk about it, that we're not taking it off into some, cosmic realm that has no practicality or groundedness here, which is why I use that business example. This has financial implications. This has implications as to my marketing decisions. This
mm,
has implications as to how I will talk to someone just generally as well. So we seek to bring these ancient languages into, whether it's the business environment, the personal environment. So those patterns, pattern is as pattern does, it repeats itself, because that's where
mm,
the profound transformation happens. And when you get to experience that, when you land back into yourself, you manifest that into a business, you express that into a business, you express that into, the partners that you work with, you express that into the opportunities that you want to create, then how wonderful it feels to create. And it's not done out of this hustle, create 50 pieces of content a day, machine, grind, do more, do even more subscriptions, more tools, launching, all of these things. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. There is a part and place, but when that becomes a primary focus, you mentioned burnout beforehand. Burnout's a symptom. You know,
mm,
the solution to burnout is not to be less stressed. It's much more than that. So I needed to understand things on a much deeper level, because a lot of things don't make sense. Again, that hustle grind, just dog eat dog. It's like, bro marketing this and shove this down someone's funnel. It's like, no. Like, you probably go on LinkedIn, like how many just messages that are so irrelevant do you get? It's like, what happened to LinkedIn? And then when I get an actual one, it's like, it's a human and they're not selling me anything. It's like, we don't have to do things that are so normalized in this space. So, and that was a period of adjustment for me, For me, it was deconstructing my belief system. For my partner, it was building it up. So we were seesawing for quite some time to get into alignment because I didn't, I know how it's not meant to be done. Some parts are good, but I didn't know what to replace that with necessarily. So it's interesting, and we are absolutely excited for how it unfolds and for the ways in which we're, bringing these tools that offer so much truth and allowing the soul to come through. And when soul comes through a business, you remember when you walk by, you remember that interaction. You don't need a business card, you just remember their signature.
36% of listeners won't subscribe to this podcast, and that's a real shame. If you want to help me share the stories and help others learn and grow, then please like and subscribe. Yep. I am so super intrigued. I've got like lists of questions, and obviously I have so many takes on everything you just said. And I will be honest, because there is a lot of it, and I know a lot of people will look at that and be like, "Oh, it's just cosmic mumbo jumbo stuff," right? But if you actually understand the meaning of a lot of the words that you said and how you strung them together, that has so much powerful meaning. And I can say that because I understand all the words you said. And that's the difference between someone that would hear at face value and someone that actually understands what you said. So I just want to preface my comments on that. Secondly, I want to know, and I've got a couple of questions, but one of them is probably firstly, because I can only relate. And to me, I want to understand your thoughts on things like passion for value or value creation, innovation. Also want to think about people who want to learn. You know, people who are yearning to learn. They want to learn and learn and learn and learn. They'll never want to stop learning. Are there parallels to what you just said in what I'm talking about? Because I'm trying to translate it in my language
Mm.
because that's how I always vision what you're talking about. Are there parallels there, or am I a bit off?
And I'll answer that, but you're absolutely right. It's very easy to disregard these models because we don't understand it. But if we look at the people who invented this and what they built out of, look at the architecture of the olden days. Can explain how that was built, please. Can someone, all the engineers can still not figure out how to finish Gaudi's design.
Yeah.
Where could something so it's beyond words as to
Yeah.
what someone like Gaudi did. Explain where that came from. That did not come from this domain alone, which has so much limitation. He,
But he got run over.
well, yeah, unfortunately. Highly
He
unfortunate.
wasn't smart enough not to get run over.
Yeah. But you look
But
at
that says something in itself.
the Eiffel Tower, like
Yeah, that's
look
amazing.
at bridges. Like
Yeah.
I was in the trip before this one when I was in Sydney. I went up the pier in Sydney
Oh
and
yeah.
it talks about the history of how the Sydney Harbour Bridge was built. And I'm thinking this was 100 years ago. I'm probably, a bit off, but it's like, how in the world? So before people actually dismiss models, understand how they have contributed to the fabric of society. I remember someone, online, they were like, I don't believe in the sun and the moon, controlling my destiny. I'm my own free will. It's like, okay, you celebrate your birthday. Your birthday is a solar return of when the sun was in an exact position in the sky when you were born. So, and don't tell me you don't believe in the sun because I'm about to go to, bed and you're about to get up and, by the sun's, the moon and the sun, you do operate by it.
Yeah.
It's quite limited when people dismiss a model. Again, it's outside of their frame. And I didn't connect with any of this until someone presented me with cold, hard truth that I could not refute because there
Wow.
was no leg for me to stand on. So could you repeat the question? Sorry, I digressed.
Sorry, no, that's okay. I guess because I having understood it and been on a similar journey, I could see in an engineering sense what I'm trying to do is make it in my mind to my engineering brain, which talks about, as I mentioned, things like value creation, passion for
Yeah.
technical excellence, innovation, and inventing, because they're the parts of, in the way I, in my mind, think about what you said, and the truth of you and what you're saying. That for me is how I look to tap into that, because if my soul, I'm a guy, right? I have a soul. Everyone has a soul, right? No doubt. But I look at that and go, if I'm not doing that, then I'm really challenging my purpose. And and I look at myself in the mirror and be like, well, if I'm not creating value, trying to innovate, trying to invent, trying to do something new, if I'm not passionate, if I don't wake up in the morning and be like, jump out of my skin, ready to go, because I'm like loving every second of everything I do, whether it's the moment I'm in with my family, whether it's this podcast, whether it's, the work that I do and the clients and the people I talk to, then I know there's something wrong.
Mhm.
And I wonder if that, trying to translate that into my language, is maybe part and parcel of how you're trying to vision the truth of you in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. You have access to understanding what do I like, what do I not. That's wonderful. Keep going. Like it's obviously working for you. But there's people who don't know and they get so disorientated and they have reached the limitations of conventional models because shallow models only provide shallow solutions. So if someone came and said, Ellen, help me with my purpose, and then you sit here and you're like, okay, well, what do you think your purpose is? It's like, where's that going to go? That answer doesn't live in your conscious faculties.
Yeah.
That is embedded deeply within. So when we pull out the right model, we can start putting a new language around these deeper parts of yourself to help you orient yourself. So, with values, I was running on a value system which was distorted and antithetical to who my soul wants to express as. So, yes, I found myself in situations where I was taken advantage of. I found myself in situations where I could not physically get out of bed in the morning. It was, I would sleep for sometimes between 10 to 12 hours. And, touch wood, I do not have physical, health problems or, a diet, like a fatty diet. I was on a keto diet back then. I drink like 3 liters of water a day. I could not wake up in the morning. So someone telling me just be passionate about something, I can't
Yeah.
accept. It's like,
I don't think you could tell someone, just passionate about that now. Get on with it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'm like, okay, I clearly did not think of that for the last 3 years, but I'm trying to figure it out. So for some people that they've tried to apply themselves and like, well, they only got steam for 6 months or even 2 years, even 5 years, and the wheels fell off. So these models invite them to go deeper, even with creativity. We can understand where we are most creative. How do we access this creativity so that we can bring it out? I don't want to say on demand. There are, different requirements, but how I access my creativity could be very different from yours.
Yeah.
Now, some people have more self-awareness, i.e., I'll just use me and you as an example. You've had the ability to explore that and you know what works. For me, it's like, I didn't even understand this layer of the land, which is I. I need help orientating myself. I need a map right now. How do you be you if you can't even put language around how you function? So it's like getting a building. It's like, am I just meant to walk in and know what the switches do? I walk into a hotel room and don't know how to turn on the same light. Like everyone goes into a hotel room and has to turn them all off and all on at the same time. We don't come with a manual, but yet we are expected to know how these core functions work.
Mm.
And you can't just ask someone a question. And even if you ask someone a question, they need to be able to suspend so much of their reality to go deeper. And what you can't do your deep thinking work on a train full of people. So there are many different aspects. But if people want science, a lot of these models are scienced. If they understand who built them, how they've been used over time, there is more science than woo to it.
Well, do you think that you can manifest a career?
You can manifest many careers. You can manifest wrong ones unconsciously. You can end up in wrong places. and you can absolutely manifest that which you desire. Sometimes it comes in the law of opposition. You will get precisely what you thought you wanted, and here it is. It ticks all the boxes, but it's not that, which is an invitation for you to refine what it is that you do actually want.
Well,
Even with careers, there are, at certain astrological placements or on soul contracts, it tells you this is your soul destiny. This is what your goals are. This is your big yes energy. You do this, you're on path. You're not doing this, expect the struggles. So, yeah, you can manifest it for better or for worse. But if we are trying to manifest out of our conditioned self, then you will end up in places that just don't, your heart's not on board, your soul isn't present. You're not going to be sitting there in an evening and not watching the clock going, when will this end kind of energy. And this really is an invitation whether people want to go down the entrepreneurial route or the entrepreneurial, or they're so happy in their career. I think the invitation is still there to investigate further. Can you take this further than what the world is offering you? And the answer is always yes.
I mean, yeah, in working with a lot of young engineers, we sort of mentioned it, that next thing, that that title, that position, that promotion, or I want to be here, I want to be here in 5 years, and a lot of the stuff that you're talking about, and having, I've been in my career 25 years, whatever, and I look back and I go, yeah, I've had the hard days, I had the weekends, I had the, you know, 2 hour drive each way to get to work and back. And then I see there's a lot of people that they just either, there's two ways. I feel like there's these limiting beliefs where they go, oh, I could never do that. I could never do that. But then you've got these other ones who, like, there's almost like a level of entitlement. And I reflect because I see a lot of younger people thrust into roles that I don't actually think they're ready for.
Yeah.
And I sort of see both sides of the coin. What's your position on that? I mean, can you see that in the industry? I mean, I think you've probably got a good lens on that.
If I was entering the industry as a 20-something-year-old now, I don't know what would happen. It is it is challenging out there for them. Then it's so ill-equipped. They, especially, like, look at what's happened culturally over the last 5 years. People were locked up in their homes. They these are the kids that went to uni without talking to a single soul.
Yeah.
I mean, it's scary enough to talk to, like, I didn't speak to any executives for quite some time. It's like, well, what am I going to say? So, let alone being locked up in their, CBD apartments, and they're overlooking the next CBD apartment building, and they can't even go out. They don't even have the pains that come with a group project and trying to coordinate people. And I'm not sure even if they could get work that involved talking to people. And now they're expected to just know how to talk on the phone. That is a skill unto itself.
Yeah.
That's not a given. These people haven't grown up with conversations. They've, especially over the last 5 years, a lot of things have been beaten out of them. So there are, immense challenges. I think that a lot of people haven't necessarily confronted or understood that is playing out within their career, especially when they're seeking to enter the workplace with young people. There's, and just look at, certain economic situations. People are looking out fundamentally for themselves. They're not, unlike the likes of you in the industry, which are able to just sit down with they don't have to be a young gun, but a young person, and give them the advice that they need at that point in time.
No.
That's becoming rare. So
Mm.
I can only encourage, if young people are listening to this, to do your due diligence on people as well and understand their story before you consider getting their advice. And there's so much, I don't want to say advice out there. There's a lot of misleading advice. There's not a lot of wisdom out there. And that's why I also wanted to compile Secrets of the Construction Industry, because there are amazing people doing wonderful work out there, and they're doing it to the highest ethical standards that they can, and they are doing it right, and they've been doing it for years. And the young people in the industry need to know that these people exist, because if they don't, then they just get so misled. I mean, the book isn't for young people alone. It is, it's timeless. It is time tested as well. But especially for young people, like, you're just constantly being led in the dark, and they have spent hundreds of thousands just to get a role. And it's like there is something so wrong with the system.
Mm. How important is it, do you think, for young professionals in construction and engineering to find a coach, a professional coach?
It is important, I do think, because you don't know what you don't know. And, of course, we can both sit here and say, well, I wish I knew that earlier. Some things you're not ready for.
Mm.
Someone might listen to this and not do anything with it for 5 years. They're not ready for it.
Yeah.
Absolutely important for them to plug into community. That is big. Their network, oh, we've all heard it before. Your network is this, your network is that.
Yeah.
And when I had that network, it was great. And then all of a sudden you move into a completely different space, not knowing how to bridge the conversation. It's like, I don't know anyone. Well, this is now problematic. So you start rebuilding that. It's not that I didn't know anyone. It was, you don't know, you don't necessarily know where people are on certain um, topics that I speak of. So community is imperative for them, and yet seeking guides, but not guides that will tell you, I've done 30 years in OH&S, therefore you should too. It's not that kind of guides. It's no, you're not, don't look for someone to tell you what to do. Look for someone who encourages you to really think for yourself, to make decisions for yourself. And if that means you fall, sometimes you need to earn your own battle scar. But it is absolutely important. And there are so many valuable resources out there. It is something else out there right now, and there is probably too much. But for young people to align themselves with people who can stress test them, and get them to expand their frame is imperative, because otherwise they become those 40, 50-year-old professionals who are so set in their ways and shut down the dreams of other people because they never explored that themselves.
Oh, we all know them. I was going to say I've always been very partial to water engineering, so maybe I'm biased. Um, so tell me, and I do see a lot of it now. And I again, I talk about competence and skills, and that you have to have a level of competence to be confident. Are you seeing, and I always ask this to most guests, but are seeing a trend with AI and the use of chatbots and other things where people say, how do I accelerate my career? Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm just going to do that. Do you get that? Do you see that? I mean, a lot of people are talking about AI, obviously. How is it impacting you, what you do, and what are you seeing in the industry at the moment?
I was such a non-believer, and I did not want any part of it because I felt that it would ruin certain faculties, creativity, original thinking, and everything. But then I started seeing how it can be used to accentuate what is already good and available within, and also to help with weaknesses that I don't have access to that energy. So, for example, I know that structuring information is great. I can do that in long form, but I don't always, we've been able to have this conversation. So I've had the chance to clarify. That works really well for me. I don't structure things too well in short form. So ChatGPT can provide that succinctness. It can provide that structure. I don't have that natural ability. Now I could spend so much time developing it, but I rather get it to spit out, here are 20 ideas and I can go run with it and and do that. So it does have its advantages. We now actively use it, and it does actually cuts out so much redundancies. I want to process for this, and okay, it spits something out, and you can work with it for half an hour, and you could have saved $1,000.
Yeah.
that $1,000 could now be reinvested. It could, do so much. Now there is an immense amount of downfall and privacy and AI taking over the world. There is so much, from that AI perspective. I understand that. But if we were to get left behind with it, then where does that leave us? But it cannot do the one thing which is always valuable, and that is to guide an individual to connect with their energy. It cannot do that.
Mm,
And I think if people utilize it more and know how to prompt it, frame it, ask it questions, you do actually become more rigorous in your thinking, because no way I'm going to take anything on face value and just run with it. You know, you get it to assess itself and you assess it. And there is so much thinking that does involve. And it gets out, not gets out, but it takes a lot of those bottom of the barrel coaching out of the industry as well, because AI can do what they do. AI can read your whole human design. You just need to know how to ask it the right question. It can do all of those things, but it cannot replace that energy, that connection when you just, connect with an individual. But can it provide so many things that help you spend more time doing what you love? Absolutely. When people
mm,
become, I don't want to say religious to it or just, churn it out kind of thing, and then it's like, well, I'm not that interested. So it has its benefits. It has its place now in society.
mm. I often reflect on it that it can't actually tell stories very well. I've seen, and I mean, I can read stuff and go, "Oh, that's so ChatGPT," or
Yeah.
and yeah, you can just tell. But what I haven't felt it can do is to tell a good story, or at least the other thing I like is the segue, because you can be deep into something and your brain goes ping, and then you just segue to some story that's got absolutely nothing to do with that one for no other reason other than your brain had a synapse. It can't do that. I haven't seen it do that yet, but I'm
No.
sure it's coming. I'm sure it's coming. I have seen the AI generated podcasts and whatever, and I will, with your permission, throw this one into some notebook LM. So that will come soon, but we'll see. Speaking of podcasts, you have a podcast. Oh my God, that's amazing. Deconstructing You.
We have, and we're about to evolve that into the Truth of You podcast. So it's taking on its natural evolution as it did. Podcasting is absolutely wonderful. It did more for my career than years in networking rooms and so many things. It provided so much opportunity, but I still find it is the only, not the only time. There are other times where notifications are off, everything can wait. I am just here, you're just here, we're doing this. And I've been able to have such phenomenal conversations. And it was in 2017 where I was in that phase of like, I can't put my finger on what's not right in corporate and I don't know what to replace it with. So I started listening to entrepreneurial podcasts, and I would listen to it. I had a 2 hour commute each day back then, and I would listen every day. And that's what allowed me to also open up my mind to possibility, to permission. And I had a, call yesterday and some today and now with you. And this is what moves so much energy as well
Yeah.
for individuals, because we don't always have access to, the ideal mentor that we want, or whatever it is. Sometimes we just need to be validated for our experiences or get a new perspective, whatever it is. And podcasting is absolutely wonderful for that. So I absolutely love getting behind the microphone and in front of it. And we'll be, restarting that shortly as well. So it's been the conversations that were had, the friends that were made, the contacts that were made. I think it's, you know, such a wonderful gift to be able to both receive and give. So yeah, I absolutely loved it and still do.
That's awesome. Look, we'll make sure that there'll be a link or whatever. Amazing plug. I have listened to some of your episodes. Really cool. Really like it. Well done. And yeah, plug away. So we'll put a link in there. That's awesome. Well done.
Thank you. And I, appreciate like you doing this. People don't know what it takes to produce a podcast. it's 6 hours per one episode. It is so much, and you do it with nothing in return, and you get so much back. Well, I hope you do. Otherwise, we're doing something wrong, kind of thing. But it's absolutely wonderful to be able to connect with people that you just otherwise wouldn't.
100%. I get a lot out of it. So I love the conversations. I've had some amazing conversations. It's fun is. So I want to know, right? So we've talked about the truth of you, and I'm going to flip it. What's the future of you? What is the future of you? What's next? You talked about the truth of you, podcast shifting, you've got some stuff happening. Tell us about what's next. What's next for you?
And of course, we are writing our book. So it'll be my fifth, Daniel's first. So we're writing, it's not the official name of it, but The Truth of You book. And it really is to, much of what we've had in this conversation. There are some things that are brewing under the surface. There are some things that are, no matter how hard you try to work on it, you're not seeing it. And really unwinding people with the first book because you can't fill them up. They're not able to receive anything outside of their frame until it's completely, not completely emptied out, but until the foundation or the paradigm is shaken enough that it starts to crack. And if you put in a structural crack, it will come down. So
Mhm.
we're writing our book. We're exhibiting in the Mind Body Spirit Festival. It'll be in Melbourne in June as well. And
Cool.
we're launching a new product suite, astrological profiles. So you don't need to talk to someone, but if you just want information about your personal potential, it's right there based on your own soul blueprint. You want to understand your health. Some people have health afflictions for as long as they can remember. We all know that one person that something always hurts, or they've had stomach issues for as long as they can remember. Why is that? What's actually happening?
Mm.
Money as
We've
well.
all got that friend.
Money as well. That's part of career. So I'm most excited about our career package because that's something that we are so, we're in this space, so we're driven by it. Not everyone's driven by career, but I want to get my information right when it comes to my career. And I want it to be about me because it is my career, as it is
Mm.
Darren's career. So we're launching that as well, which is, I've read mine. And even though I know this information, the pros, the everything about the profile. I was just so immersed. I'm like, I like this person. I really do. And I like the career that they're going towards. So that's on our immediate horizon. We have our own space now. So we want to start introducing a lot more in-person events and curating those experiences, which we do for each other. And that is the 6 month vision. Beyond that, it's we want to be able to offer the deepest consciousness exploration that takes people to places they didn't even know existed. But we need to get there first.
Wow. I mean, like just wow. It's epic. It's transformational. Breaking down some of those barriers and allowing people to understand themselves. That's true freedom. So yeah, it sounds absolutely amazing, and epic. Look, I think you said it that you are your own guru, and I really like that. I'm going to use that, so I hope that's okay.
Universal.
But look, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. I've loved hearing about everything that you've done, everything you've been through. Some of your stories are absolutely amazing. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what you do next. So thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for the journey. I feel like I've gone on a whirlwind and it's been wonderful to reflect as well. So thank you so much for everything.
Awesome. Thanks so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed that podcast. Please like and subscribe. It helps us reach so many more aspiring engineering professionals and entrepreneurs. You can find us on LinkedIn, Spotify, and YouTube.